Google wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
All right, everyone. Welcome. And Mitch.
What's up? What's up? Yeah, man, I'm on the road in a co-working environment.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, I got one of these little offices that are like about a good 4 feet by 2.
That's good. Are those real books behind you, or are they just fake?
No, they got some good books here, man. I was gonna say we always all about our books. Here you go. The Power of Habit.
Great one. That's an absolute great one.
There's some good ones right here. There's some gems. I like this. I like that they have this, man. It's important. Oh, this one. For all the traders out there.
Mistakes were made. Yeah, well, that happens.
I like the quote, though, the quotation mark, but not by me. For all the traders out there, you know, the mistakes are going to be made, but maybe they won't be by you today.
Yeah, just blame the market, right? That always works out.
All right, so at least let's talk about the markets, right? Let's get into that. I got here at least the sunrise report we can talk a little bit about. Not going to be all fancy with the graphics, but we can just talk about it. Of course, we're in risk-off returns, of course, after the market buckles under pressure last week. But, of course, we're still like kind of hanging in there, right? Dow futures really down throughout the night. S&P futures were also down. NASDAQ futures also down this morning. I haven't taken a look recently. We've recovered a lot of that, but you guys can see from the chart there, kind of hanging in there. Of course, markets were closed for Good Friday. Thursday was a good day overall, and I was able to at least take a trade on some action there. Trade tensions, of course, continuing to own the markets, guys. We'll just continue to watch to see what happens with the Trump tariffs. And there's a couple of deals that could be happening this week. I know talks with Japan have happened. South Korea is going to happen this week. Of course, a lot of conversation coming, that potential deal coming from China. I really don't think this is anywhere near close to dealing here in China. I think we're a long ways away from getting a deal from China. So we'll have to wait to see what happens with that conversation, right? I think that the truth is that China's going to play a little hardball here. I also saw comments that they were a little bit concerned. It seemed like on my part that it seems like the U.S. is reaching out to different countries and trying to tell countries that you can do the deal with us, but you need to single out China. Like, you can't be helping China anymore. And deal talk like that can really start to put pressures on these whole trade talks, right? So, of course, China battling back with that conversation, talking about, you know, if this is going to continue, you know, there's going to be more retaliation and things like that. So that's why I don't think we're anywhere near close, because conversation like that can really push back the deal, right? Because if you're mentioning those talks, it gets back to China. China hears about it, and that's how we get to where we are at right now. Of course, Trump escalating things, though, with his criticism of Fed Chair Jerome Powell, even floating the idea of firing him. What do you think about that, Mike?
I don't like, and I've heard, and these are just like random people on Twitter, right? So take it for what it's worth. But I've heard that he technically can't. So it's going to be one of those things where, you know, he's going to try. He's going to say, get out of the office. And then Jay Powell in November said, I'm not. There's nothing in your laws that say you can fire me. And then it's like one of those, it's like no one's ever tried to do it before. So, like, technically you can't fire him, but he also controls the military. So, he, you know, at the end of the day, he can kind of do whatever he wants. But it ends up being one of those. They say it will go up to like your highest court in the land to interpret all these old documents to see whether or not he can get rid of them. So, either way, we talk about it all the time. There's no way that's good for the market to have that happening. And again, we had this fight right? Which is so weird because Trump was the guy who hired Jay Powell, right? If you go back to 2018, that's what this was right here. Is that Jerome Powell was trying to get out of zero interest rate environments. He was doing his best to raise interest rates over time, and then Trump was bullying him on Twitter to lower interest rates. So they had this spat before, and I don't know, they ended up working it out. So I don't know if that's just going to be a repeat of that, but if you look at that, that's not real price action that you want to have happen, right? So when you have the president fighting the Fed chair, it's like, hey, what are you doing at that point, right?
Yeah, because it starts to create the conversation, right, of the Fed independence, right? The way that U.S. politics works is that we're supposed to have two different games, right? We're supposed to have fiscal policy on one hand and monetary policy, and they're supposed to be separate. They can work together, but at the end of the day, they're supposed to have independence from each other. This is what has created America's wealth over years, because there's always been kind of the back and forth policies there where sometimes monetary can be pressuring the fiscal, and in this case, fiscal pressuring monetary. And that's okay to have pressures, but there's a whole nother thing when you start to kind of force your way to bending the Fed in your direction. And that's
Yeah.
what the markets are on concern now. And the truth is that Jay Powell cannot cut rates here. Let's just be as honest as we can be. There is by no means necessary an ability that gives him to cut rates and then raise rates in a couple of months because the tariffs actually show up inflationary pressures. So in this case, he has to wait until the deals get done. And then he has a little bit more data dependency that he can rely on to make a decision. Right now, there's no data. And with no data, guess what? Jerome's on the sideline.
Well, this was like this kind of comment, right? And you can't fire him, but can likely replace him as Fed chair, and then Powell becomes regional too. And it's like one of those, everyone's like, no one exactly knows, right? Because the commenter said likely, because no one knows exactly for sure what's gonna happen if that happens, and it could just be one of those like, remember the Seinfeld episode where they couldn't fire George for whatever reason, and they just put him in like a box with no windows for 8 hours a day, and just like maybe does something like that. He's like, okay, you can still be the Fed chair, but you're in like some uninhabited spot of Alaska your entire life or whatever. So, but yeah, the long story short is that we just don't like the fighting, and you've got one guy with Jay Powell who wants, like, again, he is a nerd, an economist nerd is his core. He wants to go to work every day and read his papers and look at the data and do his job and blah blah blah. And Trump wants interest rates lower because it would boost the stock market, right, and make them look better. So yeah, it's this fight going on between like data dependency and this, and it's just one of those you just don't want to see it because you've got just two powerful sides of the market just battling, and there's no good that can come of that. So hopefully, if there is some sort of deal done with China in the near future, we can then, it will either boost the stock market on its own, and then all of a sudden I think the pressure on Jay Powell just goes away, or there's some sort of, sad enough to say it, some sort of economic issue where we actually start losing a meaningful amount of jobs or something like that, and then he has the ability to cut. But yeah, we talk about it all the time in this show, is right now he's stuck between a slowing economy and a policy by the government that is most certainly going to increase inflation. He's like, he's doing economically the right thing, which is nothing, but that's right. Basically, Trump's like, please save me. So the market goes up, so I look better again. And yeah, it's just again, I do not envy the poor guy. If I ever met him in public, I'd probably just buy him a beer and give him a pat on the back and say sorry for when he was sitting in whatever university class that he thought he was going to be in, learning about supply and demand curves. I don't think he ever thought he'd be battling the president of the United States.
Don't worry, I don't think he paid attention to supply and demand curves. He's a lawyer, man. Let's be honest. He's a lawyer. Yeah. So he was in law school. So God bless him for doing all that. But bleak business sentiment is what I also want to add into this. Is, of course, the New York Fed April business leaders survey showed a market a little bit moody. and darker than a rainy, of course, Monday here. Headlining the index a negative 19.8. This is the lowest in over a year, and this is the worst since 2009. So we're in financial crisis for at least business leaders mentality, and it's a sentiment reading. So what's going to give first? Is it going to be the consumer expectations that we are seeing a slowdown, or is it going to be a flip of these kind of surveys, right? And I think that that's what we need to be looking at to see what happens here. I mean, at least from all the surveys and sentiment out there, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock I put in surveys, but when the numbers come out, that kind of thing, even betting markets, and I think this is something like a big old conversation we could have one day. I think betting markets are going to replace surveys entirely, right? Because it's you can, betting markets have predict like all the world's elections recently when surveys and
Hmm.
polls didn't and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, betting markets, like I like the Kalshi, I think it is, has a the odds of a recession, and you can see it kind of tick up and down. Now it's at like a 70% chance, right? And these are people like you and me betting. So if I'm going to take $100 out of my own money and bet that there's going to be a recession at the end of the year, I'm probably then going to change a lot of my spending habits after that, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing someone calls me and says, "Hey, do you think the economy's screwed?" And I go, "Yeah." Then I hang up the phone and I move on, right? It's like in every case, you've probably seen those surveys where the economy sucks and then all of a sudden a new election happens and a new leader gets in, and then each party, depending on your party, the economy is either awesome again or it sucks, depending on whether your guy won or lost. um yeah, so surveys, but again, the money was one of those things which is going to be important to watch. But yeah, the serve or the those betting markets are starting to weaken as well. So but it's one of those things where if it weakens enough, then J-Pow can actually cut rates. So maybe a good thing for the market after all. Who knows?
We'll see. We'll see. I think there needs to be a lot of destruction for J-Pow to come with an emergency cut, right? And so let's take a look a little bit at oil. Oil prices sliding here as U.S. and Iran nuclear talks has the market pricing in a little bit of some future supply here. WTI down to 63.55. We're in the 60s. That's all I gotta say. I don't think anybody expected to see oil in the 60s, especially the way the XLE was kind of getting ready to rock and roll. Monthly charts looking awesome, and boom, the tank is on now. And this is actually helping Trump because this is, of course, going to create a little bit of deflationary pressures, right? When oil is cheap, it'll help to bring some of that pressure down and hold it down. And I think that this is an important thing. This is why the U.S. I think is pushing with getting these talks over with because it could help with inflationary pressures.
Yeah, and just technically on crude, right, you can see how long this. Oh, see, that always gets messed up because that's where crude oil went zero or negative. But yeah, you can see how long this like 65 to 69 band has been a big deal, and now we have broken down under it, and we're trying to bounce back through it, and we've got the VWAP from that high, and we have an area there as well. And there's a lot of supply overhead. So this to me kind of looks like something that could potentially roll over and make new lows. So yeah, it's something we definitely have to keep an eye on. But yeah, what a move.
Yeah,
So
let's take a look at the gold. I love gold.
oh,
Oh man, one of our best trades last week in our little competition was a short on gold actually, but gold breaking new highs, man, surging past $3,400 per ounce. I mean, I can tell you one thing. I always talk about it. Those gold rush, man, that show's gonna be popping this year. They're they're gonna be buying equipment left and right with the prices of gold where it's at. I mean,
yeah.
if you're a gold miner, this is the time to pull gold.
Yeah, well, and it's at what point do you at what point do you kind of ring the register? And this is I'm kind of asking as somebody who's still in. right? So I had, I've been talking all
Eh,
over the place about,
yeah,
this massive kind of cup and handle that was happening here on a monthly chart, on a long-term chart. I think you can see it better on like GLD. Yeah, that
yeah,
massive cup and handle there. So I bought right during this month on this breakout. And man, I'd love to say I was still in for a 50% gain on gold, which is just absurd. But I still have a chunk of it. And yeah, I'm asking myself the same question all the time. At what point does this get crazy? Now, for those who are new to the commodity space, because I know for years it didn't make sense to look at commodities at all, this is what
yeah,
commodities do. They do
yeah.
nothing for years and years and years, and then for one period of time they go crazy. I always like to bring people to cocoa. Uh,
Yeah, this is a good learning lesson, though. I think, as traders, especially that like technicals, I think these are really, really good technical charts that you can use, guys. You just have to be deep in the time frames.
yeah, so cocoa is a perfect example, right? Like if we just look at this goes back. This is a CFD contract on it, but this goes back to 2016. So
Yeah,
2016 to 2023, nothing happened. Then all of a sudden, we went from 3,000 to 12,000, right? So these trends are very worrisome to fade. Like, yeah, there's a couple chances to have here, but again, this is just what the commodity does. There's something that goes on here. My
yeah.
question to you, and again, I bought some of this, is will silver
Do the
ever
same.
catch back up? Like, if if
Yeah.
if there is a catch up trade to be had, silver on a percentage basis, generally speaking, will move way more than gold. So you're talking nearly a 50% gain just to get back to highs. And then if it does another extension like gold did, you could, what you're talking, double your money on silver would just be insanity.
Yeah, that just tells me to look for maybe potential day where there's can be some decoupling action where maybe we can get some big silver day and gold down day. But I'll just be looking to see what happens, right? Right now, everyone's continuing to stick on silver because they feel gold is too far gone. But I think that you can look for both traits. You can
Yeah.
look for silver up and gold down, right? I mean, I think that's the one thing that I'll be looking to do. But I think that this is a tough trade, right? I mean, silver is a little bit of a harder vehicle. There's not too many like silver names, right? There's like probably like five I think I know of, and I think that's like the whole market. There's like ETFs and things like that, but that's the harder part I think with silver. Like gold, you have like so many other names that you can get into.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, what silver wheaton, right? There's a couple of these things, but generally speaking, if you're a gold miner, you're also a silver miner and vice versa, right? They're going to be
Yeah,
found roughly in the same location. So that would mean that, right, if you want to get exposure via individual stocks, something like GDX makes sense. Just a recent breakout, but like, right, AU, which is Yamaha Gold, they're also going to mine silver, right? Which is why a lot of people think that, if you take one of these stocks like AU, for example, and then you compare it to gold, you see that it is dramatically underperforming. And people think it's the silver side of things, right? If gold and silver
yeah.
were moving together and they're both ramping, then the gold miners would do fine. But yeah, it's one of those where you don't really have a gold miner and a silver miner. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but logic says that they probably moving together at some point. So just end up looking that way.
All right, guys, I do want to let you guys know I'm in on a trade here. I'm short on UPXI. I've already made some money on this one on the short side of things, up 326% on the day. I shorted it on the first rip towards 11, was able to make like a little bit close to 60 bucks. Let me look at the orders right here to just give the exact 57.75. So I made on that first position. I just opened up a new position right there after that attempted break back toward above the 1050s. That was my original entry. Now I'm looking for a breakdown through 10, going back down through the 9 here. It could go back down towards 8 and things like that. I can hold off the 1050 here and just try to see if I can get another little win here on a stock that's up an insane amount, 300 and something percent. I mean, you don't see those too often. And I definitely miss this one on the long side, but doesn't mean that I can't go after it on the short side, right? I'm sure this is one that has borrows that are limited and high cost. One of the advantages that we get at Trade the Pool is that we can go after a name like this. So I think you got to be careful. Small size, of course. This is with the small $5,000 account, and I was able to make $60. So I'm going to continue pushing. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, it's a nice look. I can quickly go through like a lot of things I'm looking at. Right, TSLL. Right, Tesla had some bad news, but you know this market's just been choppy. So, right, this gap down in the market, I'm looking to fade. Just like if we were gapping up, I'd probably be looking to fade it. It's just one of those things where both sides seem to be true. So I have TSLL on watch to see if we can do the thing, get back through VWAP. I also have NVDL to see if that can pop back through. And then I have Dust. This is, again, the trade that I made, the best trade from one of the best trades from our little contest there, which was super, super fun. Bought a little bit in my personal account just because, again, I have it fully automated there. So I heard the British guy yell. Bought a little bit there when we broke through. And yeah, targeting the 2-day VWAP. Again, just at some point, there's going to be a let go in gold, even if just for a day or so. Then I'll look to take a day trade there. Nothing that I would swing. So again, you can see the alert came through here as well. And again, that's linked right to my brokerage account. So the alert comes through, it just sends an order and then goes from there. So those are kind of the only 3 I'm looking for. I think it's one of those days that you could probably do a lot of your trading on the market itself. So I'm going to keep an eye on Q, like SQQQ, TQQQ, that kind of thing. Because again, everything's just so crazy today. There's a lot of these, right? There's a bunch of these kind of gap up names. I know Steph's going to be looking as well, right? She already talked about UPXI there, and this FS. Geez, man, that one's a hard one to say. Pushed up early. It's got this shelf at like 375. So if you're a support player, that's your place to give it a shot. If that breaks, maybe it lets go there. But and then yeah, some other systems that I'm working on that I'll talk a little bit about more if they work over here. Or is it on this one?
And guys, don't forget, right? Big earnings week. Big earnings week. We got Alphabet, Tesla, Boeing. Brace yourself, guys. Brace yourself. Over 100 S&P 500s report this week, right? So all eyes shifting a little bit towards more earnings.
Yeah, and I'm pumped for that. I'm going to be going to that earnings whisperer page every morning and try to get that as well. Last thing I think that is really interesting to chat about before the market starts to open. So what's going on here? Bitcoin. We have the market gapping down, and then we actually have Bitcoin rallying, which is not something that has been happening for pretty much the life of Bitcoin. It's been one of those things where it's been kind of moving in tandem with the Qs. And that, at least for now, just been a couple of days, but it looks like that is decoupling. That correlation is breaking. So it'll be interesting to see if people start to look at crypto and say, well, you can't tariff it, so maybe that's a place I should put some of my money. I'm very interested to see kind of what happens here on the Bitcoin space breaking out there, and then just for the lulls, right? Fartcoin had an amazing weekend.
The fart coin, man.
Down from 75 up to 88. Look at this little tight flag going on here. If this breaks, looks good. But yeah, we're seeing just some decoupling from the crypto space and the Qs, which again is really new for the market. So keep an eye on that, right? You can do MSTR if you want to go crazy. There's MSTX is the leverage Ponzi scheme. Right, you could start to trade some of these crazy instruments if you want to go absolutely insane with it. keep those on watch. I was going to add this to the list here, but just it's been too fast in the morning, right? It already broke down, so the only morning trade I took is my dust trade.
All right, let's get after it, guys. 9:26, almost to the bell here, guys. Ready to see what I can do. Gonna keep holding on to this UPXI here. We'll see what happens out the gates. This thing's pretty, for me, it's like already on the fourth extension. Like it's due for a pullback out the gates here. I think it could still go up on the day, but I think we can get a quick dip here, right out the just a quick leak to stop out some of the morning bulls, and I'm gonna try to ride that wave. So we'll see what happens on that one. For this small $5,000 account, I've been at 2 or 3 times within $100. It's only a $300 goal to get funded. So right now I'm sitting at 5,165. So who knows? Maybe this one could do it. Find out.
Yeah. Well, this I agree with this, right? Earnings and numbers will be irrelevant. It's on forecasts. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things. There was like,
I mean, but forecast is still part of the earnings, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, part of the earnings. I think he just means like the actual EPS, like what they reported, because that will be old data. But it's kind of like how there was all these counters before of how many times could the company say AI.
This tariff conversation.
Couple quarters. It's how many times they're going to say tariffs. It's how much
tariff. Right? Is it 52 times? 62 times?
And they'll start comparing them. The less the company says tariffs, probably the less it'll get creamed overall. But yeah, it's going to be a weird time, that's for sure. Now, just looking at the market, couple minutes before open, as always, right? We'll mark the pre-market lows.
I'll tell you what's more important too, right? It's not necessarily the numbers on the guidance, but look for some companies to pull guidance off. If they start pulling guidance off, that's more of a scarier sign than a lowered bar, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what the market's looking for as a sign of concern for companies to be like, we don't understand the tariff environment so much that we need to pull guidance off here.
Yeah. So, right, I'm going to be watching, we're pulling a little bit up the last 5-minute candle. They're off the open, but I'll be just watching this kind of 522 is pre-market high, 519 is pre-market low. The 2-day VWAP is way, way above us at 527. So that'd be kind of a lofty goal to get there. But in this market, who knows? I wouldn't be shocked if we were green today. Just I don't, nothing at this point can surprise me at all. It's again, we're in that tweet environment. We knew on election day that we would be in this tweet environment, and that's just what we are. Right, one tweet, the market's up 10%, as we saw in one day. Another tweet, we're down 10% one day. So, I see you did a little swipe there. I know you're trading on the iPad. Do you do a swipe when you're placing a trade on this? I have it. I haven't really taken the trade on the iPad yet.
No, I don't use the swipe, but I still use like the buttons and things like that. I mean, it works pretty well. I think the iPad is a little bit better than the phone, right? Just because you have a little bit more. Yeah, and then it can also move between like kind of my Benzinga Pro scanners, right? So I'm just kind of flipping through. MLGO up about 31% on the day, just as one to keep an eye out for. Another one, of course, Tesla LQ, Tesla news as delays for the affordable model. I think it was the Model X. Probably got the model wrong, but pretty much their affordable model vehicle getting pushed back. So Tesla is in a world of hurt this morning. Earnings don't look good. Like I talked about, it's trouble for Elon here. Trouble for Elon, trouble for the auto manufacturers. They're not looking good, guys. And the truth of the matter is that if Elon wants to come out with an affordable EV, this might be the worst time to do it.
Yeah, so right off the bat, we're getting some NVDL. I heard the British man yell. So we're going to watch NVDL here. I think in the last 5 minutes, it triggered there off the open. So we're going to watch that nice little push on NVIDIA right from the get-go, which is a good thing. And then the SPY doing the same thing. So trying to push right from the start. So obviously 5 minutes in, we got to keep an eye there as well. I don't even know if there's anything. Yes, absolutely nothing happening today economically. So yeah, so we'll just watch again the first few minutes. We're above VWAP off the open. We were well off the lows from kind of how scary things looked. And now we're just waiting to see what the next move on everything is.
All right, guys. I'm at 1037 on UPXI, short on that small account, making sure that this doesn't get a push above 11. It could push here and squeeze me out, but we'll see if we can get another hit down towards the support.
Yeah, it's SPY did a little pump and dump off the open there, right? Rallied and now we're reversing just a little bit. So again, pre-market low. If we start to sell off here, we're 1925 is something we need to keep an eye on. See if we're gonna get near there. There's MDGL. It's just a day trade or swing trade idea I've got. Yeah, just choppy range bound action today. Do we have anything that we're waiting for? We got some Feds tomorrow.
Yeah, not much on the economics right now.
Nothing today. No, I was just trying to see if we were waiting. So many Fed people talking. Jeez, this week. Guys, shut up, man. So far, again, NVDL triggered, but before the open, I am going to look to see if this 5 minute candle kind of closes strong. I'll take some with my stop under pre-market lows. And then, yeah, just wait for more alerts to come in.
Tough hold right now, guys. It could get squeezed at any moment on this UPXI here. We'll see what happens if I get squeezed out in the small account. I'm going to take the shot here. There's the squeeze coming in, and there it is, guys. I had that feeling. There's UPXI just shooting off to the moon. There's $12 on a quick push through 1080s. Less than a second, up about $1 there. So the small account, the little $5,000 account, took the hit there, down about 117 on that push there. But look at it, halting into 13s now. Oh, no halt there. That should have been halted on that push, but we'll see if it gets halted in a second here. 1308 UPXI ripping, guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the main account. Get focused here. That was a big rip there. UPXI now up 485%. 485, guys.
That's nuts. My just waiting here on my dust. Right, just.
All right, let's go looking around in the market. Let's go make some money. I'm going to leave these small ones alone because I'm not at my house where I can have that fast reaction, right? So just took it with the small account there on a kind of a measured bet there to see what happens there. And we got very limited downside on UPXI. Shows how many buyers wanted to step up in the 1050s. So that's your spot to look for washout later in the day. We'll see what happens. VIXI up to start the day. What are you seeing out there in the markets, my friend?
Dust moving up a bit, right? So there's the dust trigger. So I'm just going to take that
dust.
one. So I'm going to buy some of that TSD. Yeah, pick up a.
Oh, I like dust.
Did that little. I like that kind of flush candle right off the open. Like that tick down is
yeah,
real.
red to green.
So, right, tried to shake out a lot of people there. So right, the 2-day VWAP's 2740. So just buying it here. I probably won't put my stop way under that wick just because that makes the risk reward really hard. I keep forgetting people like when I draw these out, but I'll probably just put my stop like back under pre-market low, like someone right there. So it's like a 1.5 or so risk reward on that guy. That, and then I took the NVDL, which is reversing a bit, and took that one. It's kind of like that. So stop pre-market low. and then looking for that. So it's a 1.5. So again, just popping in the orders, waiting to see what happens. The SPY here is pulling back a bit. So the question is, do we get to 519? And if we get to 519, do we get one of those undercut and rally of the pre-market? If we do, that's another potential trade to take there as well. So but so far pretty quiet right off the open. There's been, a lot of kind of back and forth gyrations, but nothing huge one way or the other. No big kind of moves to get everybody scared kind of on either side.
All right, Tesla-esque, Tesla dropping there. I'm looking at Tesla LQ, which is the bear Tesla. It looks good through this 44. Just got back there towards the pre-market highs. I wanted to get it right now at 43.80s, but it jumped fast to that 44. I'm gonna look for a pullback back here towards 43.60s, but it's jumping fast there, man. I'm a little annoyed. I was just slow. It's just just being on the iPad there.
Yeah.
But wanted to jump and buy it there at the 43.80s, looking for the 44 break here, and then pre-market high. You're already at the 44.20s. Let's see if we can get a little pullback here, and get an entry here. We'll see if I'm able to get this.
So yeah, my Nvidia stopped there. The market did flush. Funny enough, so I may take another shot there if we get back through VWAP on those names, because look at what happened to the SPY. It came right under pre-market low, and then so far, what a massive bottoming tail here. So that kind of feels like potentially a buy here in the market, right? So buy program just turned on because we came under pre-market lows and just ripped. Like, go to a 1 minute chart, I'll show you, right? Even that bottoming tail is wild on a 1 minute chart, right?
All right, guys, I grabbed it on that pullback at least, guys. So looking good here. I'm gonna hold on break even and just look to see if this rides up there, guys. That's what I wanted to see. Good action on the first move there. Sorry about that, guys. We'll see what happens, guys. Long TSLQ.
The TSLQ. So far, right, we've got SPY down 1.3%, the Q's down 1.5%, Bitcoin up 2.4%, which is just so weird. So something we definitely need to keep an eye on, right? We gotta figure that out. Palantir still moving higher. Wow, yeah, that's a rip on Palantir. It's a big pop. So that must be some sort of news-driven event. Just bucking the market that strongly with the market going down. So the only position I've got on right now is my dust. I'm just sitting, kind of riding that out.
All right, pulled back my stop to give me a little bit of a pullback. So 43.44 is stop for $11. Looking for this to push right back through the 44s.
What a big so then the SPY. So right, I think it's again worth looking at that on the 1 minute. So we've come back down, we've held again on 519, and we're bouncing here again. So there's definitely a fight going on at the pre-market lows. There's someone out there who thinks it's a really good buy, and then there's people out there that are trying to push it under the pre-market lows. Again, they could be one of those kind of scoop and score type liquidity type moves. So I might watch this ones as well. So
all right, let's see if Tesla goes for the breakdown here. I know that was negative news, and Tesla's been trying to come back, but it's been trying to come back because it's technically oversold. The catalyst still out there, pretty negative. And we've been looking to see if there was any tariff lifted in autos, and there has not been. So looking to see what happens to Tesla today. And this position's all about being break even on Tesla. Now I'm back to break even, 43.66, my original entry here. The key here is with Tesla, a lot of the times I have a feeling like it tries to run you over and then it makes the bigger move. So I like to hold break even, be willing to get back in and try to catch that bigger move.
Yeah, it's on my list for a break above VWAP, which then I would fade you because it's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But it's got to
No,
get
I
over
mean, it's a
VWAP
trade.
first, and it's nowhere near that. So
Here comes the attempted move here. Let's see if it happens. And this is why I'm break even, because it's either going to go here or I think it comes back towards the support on TSLQ, or it would be the resistance on Tesla, right? So
I'm thinking I'm going to take a shot on SPXL here, just because that's the third time now that I've watched the market get down to this price. And then again, these are 1 minute candles, just quickly get bought up. And that's, feels very buy programmy, and it just feels like we've got a pretty good risk reward here. So I'm going to wait to see if we can get back over 520. Whoa, there's another one. The market, there's craziness going on here. There's some BS. Well, it's
wiki.
right. That's right. Yeah, it's a 0.2% 1 minute wick that's happened there twice. So
Maybe some old dark pool orders, some old orders getting filled in and messing up some
trading,
data.
maybe TradingView usually filters those.
Yeah.
I actually spoke to them about what algorithm they use to filter them, and they use basically they don't accept prints that are outside the national best bid and offer. So that's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, that was just crazy action.
That's what usually happens in those situations, right, Michael? It'll be like maybe a charting service getting a little bit of some older data, and then it gives you those whips.
Now, my experience working with Trade Ideas, right? We did the same thing, and that's a very small company, so they were able to build a pretty decent algorithm that made it so the charts never showed those. So
that's smart. That's smart. I mean, I even get those on TC. So just to give you guys perspective, not every charting platform is going to be able to catch them all, right?
And it's funny. It's a client. Just again, speaking to the clients, some like it. Some want to see those old because. So for those who don't know, what we're talking about is that dark pools have to settle 30 seconds after the whole order is filled. So if I'm putting an order out on the S&P 500 at 518 is where I want to sell my S&P 500. I'm going to do it on a dark pool. Only when the order is filled do I have to put that print on. So that could happen later today. And then all of a sudden you get these things that look like massive wicks up or massive wicks down, but price never actually traded there. It's like a settlement of an old trade that finally got, maybe of 100,000 shares, I want it filled there. All but like 5 shares got filled. And then later 5 shares get filled. And then so it's not like price actually traded there. It's just a settlement of a print of a deal that was made between two institutions to offload shares. Most of the time, and me personally, I just don't want to see those because they happened so long ago, and often it's a pre-negotiated price, right? Like I'm going to talk to Mitch and say, hey, I got to buy $10 million of the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch goes, oh, well, coincidentally, I need to sell $10 million of the S&P 500. Why don't we just do it at this price? Then we don't, worry about spooking the market or anything like that. We just go and do it. Some people, they want to see it because they think it gives them some sort of edge on knowing where these prints are. So for me personally, I don't want to see them, but yeah, some people do. I think those people are weird, but.
All right, big level here. Let's see if Tesla breaks here, guys. I'm going to look for a little momentum scalp here. I'm just looking to get some money here, give myself a nice little cushion, especially since I'm on the road. There's nothing like a good old cushion here. So let's see if I can get one more spike here. So that'd be Tesla breaking down through the low. We'll see if Tesla can go ahead and break through the low.
Yeah, so far we're grinding back down to the pre-market lows and the SPY. Every time we've kind of ticked this 119, there's been somebody that's come in and bought aggressively. So we need to continue to see if that remains the case. But that's just what's happening currently. Again, that can stop at any time. that's the problem with dealing with these and trying to piggyback off these institutional orders is, of course, they never know. You never know when they're done, and then at any point they can say, "Man, I'm just going to cancel." And right, I'm just going to cancel the order, and if I think the price is going to move lower, I'll cancel the order and I'll put it back in at a price a little bit later.
All right, let's check the intraday movers, see what's going on in the session. SPY breaking lows there.
Yeah,
what I
it's
saw?
trying to. Yeah, it's right at where those wicks are. So it's one of those. It's kind of pausing there. I think people are trying to sniff out to see whether that order remains intact or not. Again, for me, the only position I have is my dust long, and it just hasn't done anything.
All right, let's see what we can do here. All right.
Oh, yeah. So there's new lows on the day for the SPY, so I'm not going to take that trade anymore, at least for now. I'm going to try to go from there. Just now, the next thing is, can we break through VWAP? That's the next thing I'm watching for any of these. So everything I have is now pretty dramatically under VWAP. So now we just end up waiting for these,
All right, at this point, I don't want the Tesla Q to break that last low here, so I'm going to move up the stop into the green, but not big into the green, just enough to start moving it up here, because I think we could either have one more attempt down and then get out, or start to see a reversal here in Tesla. Let's find out. Come on, Tesla. I need you to FSD and go and crash here. All right, guys, I'm looking around to see what other trades I can take here.
now we're reclaiming. We're getting back above. We're trying to get back above that line. So
let's filter this out a little bit. Market cap.
and we're just waiting. We're just chopping back and forth.
All right, I'll talk some gainers here. There's not much showing up there. Palantir up. You talked about that one. Mara, Unity up a little bit. MSTR up a little bit. CleanSpark up a little bit. There's not too much.
Yeah, and that's all Bitcoin names, right? So if we go here,
a lot of red on the screen.
Yeah, a lot of red there. Netflix doing great. It's great. It's one of those. I have this investment system that I only look at once a month, and it just rotates every month. It's like, here's the things that you should invest in this month. And again, just like everything I do, it's just fully systematic. And I had somebody from my website email in and say, "Oh, it's amazing that we're in Netflix in this market." And I had to go, what? And I had to look at my portfolio. I'm like, oh yeah, I own a bunch of my retirement account is in Netflix. So good for me. But I think it's one of those, it's interesting to look at, and Palantir being up as well. Software is something that I think you got to focus more on. If you've got like 5 trade ideas and 2 of them are software, it'll probably end up being an interesting move. So, all right, so we have a big push up here now. We undercut the pre-market low again. That to me feels like a little bit more of a rally, but look at that 1 minute candle again. Big spike. So again, it feels, and this is just me kind of BSing, that these are buy programs that are coming in. There's somebody's getting long in this area of the market. They're getting long pretty heavy. So we need to kind of pay attention to that and focus and say, okay, if that's going to continue, then we're going to take a look now. First of all, to everyone who's hearing screaming, It's holiday. So the kids are home. So I apologize, but just know that there's somebody watching the kids. She's one, so she just screams randomly. And the other one tries to put his forehead through my office door, regardless of what we had, like baby gates up, and he figured out how to climb over those, and because he's 3 at this point.
Oh man, I'm in for it. I'm in for it. It's coming soon for me too, man. They're walking now, so
little friggin' Houdinis. I looked over one day because he was bashing against. I was on CNBC and he was bashing his head against my door. And I go stick my head out, and he had built a whole pile of things up against the gate so he could climb up them and flip over to the other side. They're just, you can't stop them, so you just gotta let them go.
Yeah, I agree. That's the only way, man. Let's see what happens here, guys. I'm also thinking if we do get this SPY up move, the VIX meltdown could happen. So I'm just thinking about it. But Tesla finally going in my direction here, guys. Now I need to move up the stop. Now we're getting that actual break attempt here. So now I'm moving the stop to 44. I could add here. But really, I'm just going to leave it at 44 and just try to let Tesla ride, because Tesla has a tendency of trending when it works. When it works, key there, right? So now that it broke, I give it a chance. And I set where I think the breakout spot was, which was 44 for me. And you can see a nice little hammer candle there on the 1 minute. And so now I'm looking for volume to come in on this 44.50 attempt. A good volume break there on the 44.50 attempt for TSLQ. Of course, I'm just looking at the opposite, right? But we'll see if we get that break here.
It's another a good tip of kind of trading from the road, right? I know a guy who he's one of them digital nomad types, which, man, me back in my 20s with no responsibilities, that's my life. And he actually found that his trading gets better because he's got his MacBook and that's it. Because you can't hyper manage things. It's very much have an idea, put out a trade, maybe take off half, put out your stop loss, and then off you go.
Like right now, just secured some wins, right? I'm on the road, man. I need a green day. It can help your confidence. So I just secured $40 into the green here, and just let it work. If it keeps working, I'll take the $80 or $100. If not, I'll take the 40. And what it does is it gives me the next trade, right? I can go and risk that 40 and see what happens, right? So let's see what happens today, man.
Having limited technology and an inability to micromanage quite often is a good thing. My co-host of my podcast about systematic trading wrote an article that I really loved about how when he was CTO of Trade Ideas, he was like, meetings, all this stuff. He's like, the only time I could book off is that first half hour of the day, and then I had to, manage developers and do all the work related stuff. And he noticed his trading got much better because he's like, I just had to focus and take those trades in those systems and then walk away. Yeah, so it's one of those. Sometimes you'll notice kind of limiting yourself ends up actually being a good thing for your pocketbook overall. But yeah, so Tesla, we were watching there to new lows. SPY is now this is going to be the first 5-minute close that it can muster below pre-market lows, and that could say that whatever buy program there that kept pushing us up is done or canceled for now or moved lower, whatever the case is. But this is the first solid close below that pre-market low. It's just not ideal if you're bullish, but it just means we can push down. So the question is, where to next? And there's not a lot, right? We have this spike down at 509. That was interesting. Way back here on April 10th. And then under that, there's really nothing until the crash lows. So my dust, you can see, just triggered back through here as well. So now that's going back through VWAP. Again, I'm in from this price right here. My stop's kind of right in this area. Right? So nothing's really happened. So I have to lower my targets. This might end up being just a 1-for-1, which would just offset the NVIDIA loss if that. But you can see I'm being very, very passive this morning just because the whole market's gapping down, and I play reversals when it comes to day trading. That's kind of the niche I've given myself. So if there's no reversals to be had, then there's nothing to do. So I'll just hang out. Hang out and wait.
Yeah, can't blame you for that, man. That's what you got to do sometimes. It's patience. Patience pays, they say. All right, let's see if my TSLQ can break the 45, or don't know what that level would be on Tesla, but let's see what
The
happens there.
yeah, SPY's breaking new lows. That will definitely help you out with Tesla being such a large component to the S&P 500.
Yep. Let's see if we can get this break here, and then I'm just going to raise up the stop and just keep grinding it up. The idea is to get the cushion on the day on the first trade. If I can get a cushion on the day, this is one thing that I've been learning more and more about. I think that one of the things as traders that we need to be thinking about is a little bit more like poker players. A lot of times poker players are just trying to get that first big win so that they can manage their payroll, their bank, their actual money that they have to bet, right? Instead of betting with the money that you have in your bank, in your own bank, right? Why not learn how to just bring a little bit and use how to bet with that wisely and flip that? That's how the really good gamblers do it, guys. I know that, sometimes people can think that gambling, that stocks are not gambling. I think it's all gambling, guys. Whenever we're involving money and we're trying to make money, that's already gambling, right? You're trying to flip some money essentially. So I think it's all about learning probabilities. I'm learning more and more how poker players are able to handle big pots and things like that. Um, betting, scaling, and things like that is very important, I think, to learn.
Well, yeah, it's not to get all existential, but it's right, kind of everything. If you're opening a restaurant, it's gambling, right? If you're
Yeah.
trying to choose what job to go to, that's right. So it's I like to look at it. Suppose using the word gambling, which turns a lot of people off. I just say it's all probabilistic, right? There is
Yeah,
not
but
one.
I think that's it. There's something there, right? Why do we got to view gambling as a negative thing, right? It's viewed negative because majority of the times when people gamble, what do? They don't use wise strategies, right? Quantitative strategies, my friend. And I
Well,
think
and
that that's the difference.
I think the part of it too is that in most what people think about when they think about gambling is they think about casinos where they don't have an edge, and the edge is actually into the house, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, you're basically, but you're doing the same thing, right? If there was, imagine if it would never happen in Vegas, they opened up a game that the house didn't have an edge, that the players had an edge, right? That would be the game that everybody would play until Vegas went completely bankrupt. So that's how I look at trading: is you're basically trying to be the casino, and you're trying to play a game in which you not only have an edge, but you can prove. That's again why I'm a quant. You can prove there's an edge. I can I can go to my back test and I can say this is the edge of mean reversion, or this is the edge of trend following, and all of that. And then you just exploit that edge as much as you physically can. And yeah, and I think that's the big difference. So my dust is finally just getting back to positive there. So that's a nice look on that one. But yeah, the SPY is just, it's not like aggressive selling, but it's
All right.
bleeding, I would say. Like, we're
All right,
bleeding
guys.
through those.
Raising my stop, putting a target profit out there at $100, but now the stop's at 63.50. So worst comes to worst, I miss out on some of that $40 in between, but I'm just riding the trend and raising the stop as on the levels. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking at like 2 or 3 minutes on the low and raising the stop off of that, right? So now that we broke this 45, I put it at 44.93, maybe could bring it down to 44.80s here, but I'm okay with taking the money and running at this point. Good trade, especially being on the road.
It's a tight stop for that guy. 44.93s. Good work, right? Could just be this momentum style move for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to write. And this trade wasn't hard, guys. It had horrible news this morning, and I'm just going with it, right?
Yeah.
Not trying to complicate it.
Well, and
And I
it's
think
one of
that's the
those.
important part.
It's such a SPY component, right? That this if the SPY continues to bleed, it will continue to work, right? It's relatively weak to the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 is weak. So, right, the next more nerdy strategy that I'm gonna talk about with everyone at some point, which I'm trying to figure out a way to test, which again has its own problems, but we'll chat about that later. Is just doing just that. What happens if after you take the market and you take the S&P 500, and you're just doing like opening range breakouts, but you're shorting all the opening range breakouts that are relatively weak to the market, and you're buying all the opening range breakouts that are relatively strong to the market, right? And you just like build a portfolio off the open, and then you hold those till the end of the day. That's kind of the next idea that I have, because what I'm doing right now with these fades is right fading the market. So the next strategy that I should come up with shouldn't be fading the market. It should be something that's more of a trend following thing with the market, because we know the market only trends intraday about 20-30% of the time. So it's one of those things where you don't want to have your sole strategy doesn't want to be continuations, because you'll be wrong 80% of the time. But if you have a good mean reversion strategy and then you have a good trend continuation strategy, those two things usually play really, really well together for kind of long-term gains.
Yeah.
Currently just rocking the dust. It's trying to break highs here. I'm constantly having to lower the profit target as the 2-day VWAP kind of comes down to catch up here. So it's like a 1.4% risk reward at this point. And this is just kind of opposite of gold, which or gold miners, sorry. So that would be JDX. Right. So gold miners are looking, they did that big gap up in the morning, they're looking to fade. So dust is just an inverse ETF of that for those who don't know. So just trying to see, again, I'm not saying that it's what we talked about this earlier, how gold miners have been dramatically underperforming gold as a whole. So if we get any kind of rest in gold, then I just think gold miners will do the best. And if you guys didn't check out the live stream where we had our little battle, that's the argument I made there as well with those guys, which again, I still think they cheated somehow. So.
You know how it is, man. I'm gonna put it on me. I didn't do the best. I held you guys back a little bit, but I'll be ready. I'll be ready for the next one, my friend. All right, guys, looking around to see names that are down. Simtech, SMTC, big name, down big today, 5%. So definitely seeing some down action there. NVIDIA almost 5% now down. So really seeing these big tech names taking a bigger hit today. SMCI down 4%. So that's down there to $30 today. Looking around to see what else is down. First Solar down almost 4%. Broadcom, Palo Alto, Twilio. A lot of names down here today, guys. It's a ugly day here, and quantum names showing up. Also, Rigetti down almost 5.3%. So, IonQ showing up there almost 5%. Also, Marvell, and it shows me, at least from what I'm seeing here, a lot of China exposure, chip exposure, tech names bleeding here.
Yeah, just a quick question there about the 25K. So I think the risk total is 1,000, and then per day is 500
On the
for a 25K account. Oh, but
Yeah.
that would be different with the flex and the max.
Yeah,
would be-
just make sure that you take a look at which account you have, right? Like they're all specifically the best place to get this, the dashboard. Let's be honest. If the dashboard just makes it as simple as day, guys, you just open it up, you'll know exactly your goal, where you're at, some statistics on your account. So if you're not looking at the dashboard and you have one of these accounts, just go ahead, do me the favor, open it up. You'll say thank you. I promise. So that's the best way, I would say, is always just look at the dashboard, see how things are going, and it updates in live time, right? So like if you close a trade, it will update. All you got to do is hit refresh and you'll see the updated action.
Yeah. And you should probably have that open anyway, right?
Look at Tesla, man. Look at Tesla work. Let's go, Tesla. Moving it up, guys. Moving it up. I'm almost just cashing, guys. I'm moving up now. 45.23. You guys know I've been just trailing this now, 86, almost $100 here, guys. If I get the 100, I might just take it and run. I also been laddering the target profit and stop loss. So sometimes I do this approach, especially when I
Yeah.
can't react fast. So I'm putting out a stop loss, but I'm also putting out a target profit on top of it. So I just move the ladder up as the game keeps going, right? That gives me the ability to, if it all of a sudden just does a big pop, well, I'll just cash out and take the money. And if it comes back on me, I take.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, as the SPY, you're seeing it. If the SPY continues to bleed like this, Tesla's going to continue to grind. And then we go to the stock heat map, right? Everything that Netflix that was up 3% last time we checked is about 1.4%. So right across the board. Now look at the long-term chart. Right, this is why we always zoom out. Just say, hey, it's not the end of the world. Again, we're still, and I'm still kind of in the camp that we are going to be stuck in this giant candle until there is some resolution or continuation when it comes to tariffs, right? One of those, the tariffs got us here, and the tariffs are going to have to be the thing that gets us out, but we are just hard stuck between, let's call it 550 and I don't know, 493. And I wouldn't be surprised, just to frustrate people for as long as we can, if we're just kind of farting around in this range. Geez, well, we got to start talking about summer trading, right? Which is usually pretty boring trading. So we could be in there
No,
for
don't talk
the
about
summer.
that. No summer trading. No.
Yeah, so we could just be hard stuck in that range. So
Yeah, guys. All right, guys. Time to take this money and run. Let's take it. Boom. Bam, baby. Money. I gotta pay for this office today, guys. This office ain't gonna pay for itself. There you go, guys. Just close that, guys. $100
closed.
trade. 99.50 on that Tesla. Could maybe hold on for a little bit longer, but to tell you the truth, I mean, it's a really nice trade there. Look at the drop that I got there. I mean, really nice trade.
Yeah, and that's like a 3% drop on a massive company like that, right? At some point, you got to ring the
Yeah,
register and go.
50
Right?
shares, 2 points. I didn't
Yeah.
go crazy either on the share size because I'm on the road. So the one thing you don't want to do, I'm telling you guys, is whenever you're on the road, it's about just taking the base hits. Base hits matter even more when you're on the road. You can take a big hit at home and kind of get over it. You don't want to ruin your vacations from taking a big
Yes.
beating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Michael? So like
Oh yes.
if
Same with
anything, you
holidays.
learn more and more. Exactly. I think it's important for newer traders to also think about this for the end of the week, like Friday. I think it's important to sometimes downsize if you're a newer trader because it can really hurt your emotions and your confidence if you take a huge loss on Friday. You think about it all weekend long and it drags into your Monday versus you close in a break even trade or maybe a just small red trade on Friday and you can actually wash it out on the weekend and just come in fresh. So important on a Monday to come in fresh.
I know so many traders, swing and otherwise, who just don't trade on Fridays. And Friday, they book all of their like administrative, like,
Yep.
I'm gonna go through all the trades that I took this week and journal them and all that stuff. They book all that on Friday and they sit down completely away from the market. And again, I've mentioned a few times, but I'll continue to mention is that the Peter Bryant, who's a market wizard, he's like 86. He's I think 86 or 87. He's been trading for 57 years now. And he just has a policy where anything that's red, he gets rid of on Friday. And it's all about that mental reset on the weekend. The worst thing you could do is like blow up an eval account or something on a Friday, because you're stewing on it all weekend, and then it ends up bleeding into your real life and all that kind of stuff. You just don't want to do that. So 100% agree. Someone's asking about AERB. Massive gap down. It's trying to come back up. Right. This is obviously a extremely awful company that will be bankrupt soon. And anytime you look back and you say it all the time, $300,000 a share. This just means this company is complete trash. And again, will probably be bankrupt in the near future. But for a short-term trade, maybe you try to do the gap fill. But I look at the pre-market and I say there's a lot of action around this $3. And so many bag holders up here at like $10 that are going to be trying to get out. So maybe for some scalps, but yeah, I wouldn't have the guts to short something like this because again, it went from $1 to 13 off of this reverse split, which basically, for those who don't know, the reason sometimes you get these spikes off reverse splits is it dramatically shrinks the float. So then if any chat room or whatever Discord room picks it up, people start pumping it on stock twits or whatever it is, the thing can go kind of parabolic pretty quickly. But just like all of them, they end up coming back down, right? This thing's done this many times before, right? So again, you got to laugh at all these numbers, but these are all last time it did the split right before $100 to 180, $70 to 170, and then they all end up the same. So I would watch to see maybe if it tries to fill the gap, but yeah, other than that, it's one of those. It's a game of musical chairs. You play it while the getting's good, and then as soon as it goes, I think you just move on to the next thing.
Well, what about the 568% mover in UPXI?
Wow, what a
Dude,
yeah,
absolute insanity.
Is this another one of those? Yeah, it's done a couple, but nothing crazy. Health
It's crazy,
technology.
man. It's crazy, and the spread isn't the worst. For a lot of times when I see these big runners, the spread starts widening out. It does widen out by like 10 to 15 cents, but it's not like let's say like a 50 cents wide spread. So it's chugging along on the day. One thing that's doing really well, at least from an indicator that I have just here, is a kind of a VWAP hold multiple times here. So I look to see if that can hold on there.
Yeah. Why is this news? So this is a health technology pharmaceutical company, and the news is $100 million secondary to build Solana treasure. So this pharmaceutical company is going to hold a bunch of Solana. That makes less than no sense to me.
This is a micro strategy, bro, in a macro environment.
It's for a so what? They're just not building pharmaceuticals anymore. Like consumer products.
They're into blockchain, bro. They're into blockchain, Michael. Come on.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, geez. Well, it's one of those again. You take your $100 million, you dump into Solana, and then Solana goes up, and you're a hero like Michael Saylor, or it tanks, and the whole company goes bankrupt. But if you look at the chart, the company was going bankrupt anyway. So, like YOLO at that point, I guess. Why not? I think you're going to see more of that. More of this nonsense as time goes on, where these companies like MicroStrategy. I've asked so many traders in person when I chat with them, like, hey, what is, other than the Bitcoin thing, what does MicroStrategies do? No one has any idea. So it's the same. This company, it's like whatever they're doing wasn't working. So just YOLO Solana, I guess. So I guess if you're watching to trade this thing after the craziness of today, right? Today is definitely just pumping because it's the thing in play. But after this takes place, if they have $100 million in Solana, then this is essentially, I guess, a Solana ETF that you could play. Why not?
All right, guys. I'm looking to try to play a flip here game. So I'm looking to try to get short on the VXX. So trying to play a little flip game for the afternoon. We're at 10:15. I've been seeing a lot of flips at 10:30. It might be a little bit early, so I'm going small at this. I'm trying to short 50 shares of the XX. We'll see if we start to get a flip. So looking to play a little flip game here. One of the things that I can't do is short in the middle of the charts anymore. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is like here, I'm essentially trying to get an entry near the high of the day. 74.11 is my limit here. So if I do get the fill, it can go really quickly and maybe make a new high and then sweep back down. So small, and we'll see what happens here.
So the SPY tried to put in, look at this weak little 5-minute bounce, and then just failed. Just could not get going. Couldn't get going at all. So it just shows, and there we go, breaking down to new lows. So far, right, very, very weak off the open, very, very weak opening drive. So we have to be, very careful with anything from the long side. I'm just happy that my dust is holding up and doing okay. So I'll take it, right? Just moving in order. Where's the dust 2-day VWAP now? So I'll probably just get it around, I don't know, what, 27 at this point. So, of course, none of the other things that I talked about this morning triggered. That NVDL triggered off the open, got stopped out of that pretty quickly, and then nothing else really happened. So, we just kind of wait. Maybe later in the day, so I'll keep the alerts on, and they'll kind of ping my phone. But after this, of course, with the kitties home and it actually being a nice day out here in Canada, I'm going to actually go outside for a little bit anyway.
All right, guys. So I got my entry here, 74.12. We've just made a new high on the VXX. So now I'm going to look for the VXX to come sweeping down. The sweep action is what tells me I have the right timing. If there's no sweep action down, then I'm probably off timing and I need to be out quickly here. So I set a really quick stop of $25 on 50 shares here. And now I'm getting that move back down through the 74. Now I want to see the SPY make a quick move to the VWAP here. So it's a mean reversion essentially play here. We'll see if we get it.
Sorry, what ticker?
It's VXX. So VIX.
Yeah.
So SPY, yeah, you know what I mean? I like the VXX as the best one to trade, at least.
There's a lot of people out there, a lot of traders that all they trade is volatility, right? They get kind of real.
And there's a reason why. I think a part of that is what you talked about earlier about those like kind of trend trades, right? There's sometimes where you get these massive trend trades on the VIX. So it's a tough one though. I can tell you guys, as of late, I've had to really downsize in the VIX to play it.
Yeah, it's a mover, right? Especially this is the time to play the VIX, right? Because as we talk about all the time, the VIX is solely a mechanism to say here is the VIX. The VIX is only one thing, right? And all it does is how many people are buying puts on the S&P 500. Well, right now that number is changing very frequently. In lame times where the market's not really moving, that's going to be much calmer, right? That's going to be something that's doesn't move nearly as much. So this is the time for people out there who are VIX traders to trade it, because especially when volatility is enhanced like this, if you go through history, do the VIX, just do the futures contract, they can't. It doesn't stay like this forever, right? It never stays like this forever. It can't. The question is, right, how far does it go in the meantime while we wait for that volatility to come back down, right? It can go quite high in the meantime.
Don't look now. UPXI 677%. This thing's wild, bro. It's up to 18 now. Let's just say my little short at 1050 at the gates might not have worked. But another reason why you cover, imagine, right? I mean,
well, that's right, and that's why we have stop losses. You take your little paper cut and you move on with your life. Yeah, crazy.
I mean, this thing was trading yesterday, guys, below 3.
228 was the close. Just insanity.
Yeah.
Someday I'd like to wake up and one of my swings have done that. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah, I got in those overnight like 30% winners, but not not something like that. I mean, that is crazy talk, guys. All right, guys, we'll see what happens now. To my VIXy trade, my VIX trade. Let's see, guys. Let's see if the market wants to come back a little bit here.
God, I picked the most boring instrument to trade today with this dust. Look, just nothing. That's all
Dust
right.
not moving. That's okay too. That's all right. All right, guys. We'll see what happened here. I'm looking around. I'm gonna go into the scanner here to see what's going on. Let's find some good stuff. Man, the gainers list is limited.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if we go into the heat map, right? We got what?
Ouch.
Netflix and Capital One. It's a Capital One, Discover, and Netflix. Those are MicroStrategy, of course, but just wild to see. Yeah, Bitcoin is like continuing. So, right, look at this Bitcoin candle today. This is the 30-minute candle here on Bitcoin versus the SPY.
Yeah, man.
You don't see this like ever where you have the Qs and the market selling and Bitcoin ripping like this. So maybe finally, and I don't even want to open Twitter because there's gonna be so many of these crypto maxi guys. Because I told you, it would help in bear markets. Because finally they're right. It didn't help in any other time. And this is kind of across the board, right? If you go to Ether, that even and Ether sucks, right? Like look at this chart compared to Bitcoin. This is just Ethereum's just been trash and it's still moving. Solana, I guess this move in Solana is probably helping that UPXI because it's even up a little bit today. So just showing that, yeah, there's markets out there, and Bitcoin in particular. It's one thing if the market kind of gapped higher or Bitcoin gapped higher or the market gapped lower, but it's just the sustained trend that we're seeing on this is just wild to me. So great. Like I'll take it. It's right. My fart is up. So
What was that statement?
My fart's up, man. So
at least say excuse me, my friend.
we got resistance on the fart and a buck through that. Do we take a shot at all-time highs on the fart coin of $3 a share? Wild to me that this is a $1 billion market cap coin. It's worth $1 billion. You can look at like many companies that are medical companies trying to like cure people of depression and stuff that are worth like 50 million. And fart coin's like $1 billion a coin. It's just nuts.
Yep.
Nothing makes any sense. This is why I'm a systematic trader, because I have no idea why any of this stuff does anything at all. One thing that is actually really interesting to me and super rare is we have IWM outperforming. Just take a second and look at this IWM daily chart, guys. Holding up way better than the S&P 500. That is down, and that is not something that anybody's been able to say for years now, that we're getting these small caps that are doing so much better than anything else.
No, that's actually something to keep an eye on. Right? We were looking around to see if we get a flip today. Been bearish all day. Can we get some flipping action here in the afternoon?
Well, and one of the reasons that it makes such little sense is that you would imagine Tariff, the small caps are going to get hit harder. It's harder for XYZ company to adapt with, if I'm a mom and pop shop, right, and I'm ordering widgets from China in order to produce, I don't know, bread. I have to buy the filaments for my stove, whatever it is. It is harder for me to adapt than like a Coca-Cola or something, right? I would imagine, because I don't have the cash flow to, right? I'm going to just shut down my store if my margins get crushed. Whereas, Coca-Cola, they take it on the chin. They've got a couple $1 billion. They build a factory. It costs them nothing, and then they're up and running. So the fact that IWM is doing so well, and then IWC is doing even better. Now, there's no liquidity in this, so closing price is the only thing that matter for IWC. But IWC is the microcaps. So microcaps being anything under $2 billion a share. That's doing fine, right? So if you go kind of down the cap scale, let's start with the SPY, your big guys, down with a pretty healthy bar and kind of halfway in the middle of that range. Then let's go to MDY, which is your mid caps, a little bit better. IWM, which is your small caps, a little bit better still. And IWC, your micro caps, a little bit better still. So very, very interesting when it comes to that. A rates bet, maybe, is the only kind of thing I can think of.
I think that's definitely on the outlook, but I don't think that's I think that's just kind of maybe an area that's been hit, so it's just seeing a little bounce back. I wouldn't take it too much unless we kind of completely rip on the day. Finally getting the action that I'm looking for, guys, the reversal action. So feeling a lot like I at least have like a good timing area now. I'm still gonna risk the $25 here. So I'm just gonna take from my gains on the day, take a shot, right? But very measured one. See if I can make a little bit more on the day and call it quits. Like with this trade, no matter what, it's the last trade. I have it on. I know my stop. I know I'm trying to make like maybe close to $100 again. And if I can get anywhere near that and take the money and run, it'll be a hell of a day. And I continue moving closer on my goals, right? This is a $50,000 account. I'm at 739 in the green, and I'm trying to get over that $1,000 account in the green, right? That's such a big hurdle, I think, because once you get to that hurdle, you can take a hit, even a hard hit day, and continue moving. Of course, this is the flex model, so I have no rush, and I've been taking it with that mentality. You know what I mean? Sometimes being able to take the profits like I did on that Tesla trade at 100, when probably 2 weeks ago I might have pushed it to wanting 170 or 200 instead of just taking that 100, right? Need to be smarter with the flexible accounts, understanding that timing is not the matter here. It's just more about consistency.
Yeah, the VXX moving there, that will be right. Alternate the SPY. The SPY gets any kind of bounce. The fact that the VXX is doing so well with the SPY selling a little bit, it's that's obviously going to be a good thing. So we got to keep an eye on that pretty closely.
We'll see. I think the daily is important to watch on that VXX. If you look at it and you just think VXX, right, you can see how that could line up to making a move to 80 today. I'm still thinking that's a potential, right? But that's a huge leak here on the VXX. And I like to look at daily candles a lot of the times to take a peek at what I'm going to think at the end of the day, right? I feel like a lot of traders don't do this. They don't take a peek at the daily chart during the intraday. They only look at daily charts in aftermarket or in pre-market. You should maybe at least take a peek at that so that you can see where it's at. This is how I used to do a lot of my swing trading. I used an hourly chart next to a daily chart. I was approaching hourly lows and focusing on the daily chart to make sure it still lined up with an overall bullish setup.
Yeah, and for me personally, like I've got everything kind of scrunched here for you guys, but looking around my screen, I always have the 5 minute, and I've always have the daily chart open.
Very important.
I just want to what's the levels, what's the trend, that kind of thing. And again, putting everything in perspective, right? Because if you're just zoomed in, especially say you're on a 1 minute chart and you're just zoomed in, looking at this, you're like, oh, this is the ugliest day. The world's coming to an end. What a wicked crash. You look at the daily chart, you're like, oh, okay, we're down a bit, right? And it just helps kind of put that, put that whole thing into perspective, because someone looking at this chart may say, okay, well, now it might just be time to buy because we're down so much. Then you look at the daily chart and you go, oh, well, we're down a little bit, maybe move a little bit lower, a little bit higher, who knows? So again, having those kind of perspectives, I think really, really help out. You'll see I even have an intermediate term here, and this is just the 30-minute chart. Just it gives me 5-6 days worth of price action, so I can kind of see if there's anything big in our way one way or the other. Right, the only thing I see kind of out here right now is this low at 509, which would be a huge way. So now we've got 20 minutes or so we've been based against this level. Might be
Yeah.
some support coming in here, maybe.
That's why I'm betting it. Essentially, just trying to give a shot to this bottoming to see if we get it. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but it does give me the opportunity. And like I said, I at least played it off near the top end, so not trying to be in the middle of the charts right now. So like on the
Yeah.
SPY, I wouldn't want to be shorting in the middle of that chart or longing in the middle of that chart because it's hard to hold to the lows right now. But if you're longing on the lows, at least you can risk below the lows, right? If you're shorting at the top, then at least you can short above that, right? And that's what I'm doing on the VXX. I'm shorting with an empty spot as my stop loss, an empty spot, meaning that we haven't been there today, giving me the potential to see the reversal. But it doesn't mean it's going to always work out. Like right now, the VXX is spiking. I give myself the room, $25, and that's going to be it. If I get hit, I'm done. And I celebrate the day, $75. We keep moving in the right direction.
It's always a good way to do it. Right. Again, I'm back at the prop firm when I made a living day trading. We had what we called loss from top. Right. That was the idea behind it, is that you had kind of a trailing stop that you could put on your P&L throughout the day. And that was a great feature I found for myself personally. So it's something you should do manually too, if you can end up doing it, where you're trailing that stop based off of what you're seeing there in the market, and just pushing it with price. Because eventually, right, you'll stop feeling it, or you end up giving a little bit back, and it would stop you out in the day, and then maybe you're a little bit mad, but it would stop the big problem, which is people who are up on the day, and then either just give it all back is the biggest thing, right? And I see that happen so much, where and I'm still victim of that as well, when I don't systematize things fully. So there's nothing worse than being up like $200-300 or $1,000, whatever it is on the day, and then you walk away with nothing. You're just like, man, all I had to do was like go take a nap, and I would have been richer. Like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, happens all the time, man.
Yeah. So Steph, we weren't talking about you, but now you'll pipe back up. Get the hell out of here. You said like an hour ago that you were gone. Get out of here.
You know how that goes, man. You know how that goes. Like always, guys, find your timings. Find your timing.
Well, it's like we use trailing stops on our stocks, right? If you buy a stock at 10 and you think it's going to go higher, you slap a trailing. If the stock continues to go your way, you're fine. Slap a trailing stop on your P&L. I know a guy who actually will.
Yeah.
He's got an Excel spreadsheet, and after every trade, he plugs in his balance for his P&L for the day, and he's got a moving average. He's got like a 5-period moving. So he's got his equity curve, then he's got a moving average. And if the equity curve crosses down on the moving average, he's done for the day. And it's just like a real mathematical way to do it, as long as he's above. And same as he's like, that's how I trade my stocks, is I buy my stock, and if it stays above the moving average, I hold in. He does the same thing when he does with trades. And yeah, because then every now and then he gets these days where he just blows it out of the water, and his equity is trending higher all day long. That's great. And then any sort of downtick, so that's it. I'm out. I took my shot, and that's kind of what Mitch is doing as well, right? Taking a little shot on some P&L, right? The market's still trying to. I'll go back to the 1-minute chart. Just there's a massive base happening right here. The market's trying to dig in. So, right, do we pop back up to VWAP here, which would be a 3-point move higher?
I mean, the thing that leads me to the afternoons also is I don't think we're going to get negative news in the middle of the afternoon. I think in the middle of the afternoon is when we're going to get a lot of these deal talks that come out. And if it's negative, it probably won't come out till after the market. But if it's positive, the way I see it, and this is strictly on me and speculation, right? That's what trading sometimes is about. I see it as the deals will come out in the middle of the day as a chest pumping, like pouting kind of thing. Like, we did this. Look at us. And I think at some point that's going to happen. When is this going to happen? Nobody knows. But I think with that being said, I think you're having traders bet on that.
Yeah, I think that
Good
makes
at.
sense. Also, from just a timing point of view, right? Like, you got to think, when is Trump going to meet with, these leaders? Probably going to do it in the morning. Probably going to, wake up and eat his breakfast or whatever, and then they have a meet in the morning, and then in the afternoon they go, "Oh, look, we had a great conversation." I don't see Trump being up at 2 in the morning. I think it's one of those, you call me during my time. I don't call, right? The Chinese leader, I'm not, or the Japanese leader. I'm not going to call you at 2 in the morning when it's your afternoon. I'm going to make you call me in the morning when it's my time. So yeah, I
Good
see a lot
action
of
here,
that
guys.
happening.
Good action. Take a look at the SPY, man. We're finally starting to get a little bounce there. I know the VIX is coming down pretty fast here. So that's exactly what I wanted to see. And I was literally 10 cents away from getting stopped out there. Now we're getting that reversal action, right? A little part of me used to, at least in the last couple of weeks, I used to be adding at this spot. This is where I'm changing because of the environment. I don't want to add in these situations anymore. It's been opening me up to a risk where then all of a sudden the volatility stays expanded, and then I'm getting stopped out. So I'm not going to be adding in these spots, at least in this market. I'm going to be more sticking to the original stop loss and just letting it work. Letting the trade work more, I think, is what's going to be needed in this environment versus trying to get too like picky with it or trying to be quick and pretty with it. I've been doing that a couple of times last week where I went and tried to be quick with it and jumping on the trend and then end up being that pig getting caught in the middle. It bounces, stops me out, and then goes in the direction. So you
Yeah,
got to hang on. You got to hang on. Can't be the pig in this environment.
personally, it's just me, and I know our CEO vehemently disagrees with me on this, but I don't like adding to trades. Period. Just, again, it's to each your own. I'm more of a ideally one in, one out. You have your point where you
Yeah.
want to buy, you have your point where you want to sell. I completely understand. I think more the scaling out side of things. That's something, again, to me, that makes just a lot of sense, because, right, you're just
Yeah.
parsing on the way out, to kind of balance. And it's one of those things, we know that scaling out mathematically probably isn't the right move, right? It's just not, mathematically you should have a profit target or a trailing stop and stick to that. But it's one of those, you give up the optimal gain in order for some psychology, saying, okay, I've taken some money, and that, right, that helps me hold on. And I totally get that. But for me, every time I add, if I add to a loser, things are generally going pretty bad. And even if I add to a winner, it's just way more likely to me that I'm getting stopped out. So for me, I'm picking my point. That's where I'm buying the shares and I'm walking away. So again, not to disparage. If you got something and it's working for you,
Yeah.
it's fine. For me, I have not found any success with adding to winners or adding to losers. Neither of those things have ended up working out for me. It's kind of, I take my shot, put out my stop loss. I have my either put out a profit target, or I have a plan on how I'm going to take profits. And then I kind of sit here like I am now with my hands up and just waiting. Because for me, the only thing that's triggered is the dust trade, and I don't think I'll get a trigger on anything else, right? NVDL and TSL are just way under VWAP. So, I'm actually going to cancel all these alerts now, because maybe they could work at the end of the day, but again, my stats say that first hour is when I should look to take these trades.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'm looking good. I'm up on the trade already, and I can go break even. What I'm going to start doing more often is on my first trade, I'm okay to go break even as more of a protection. But on this trade, I have gains to use that I already established in my mind I'm using for this trade. So I'm going to keep the risk on at $25 on this trade and look to make the profit. Where in certain markets, I'll go and I'll stop loss to break even here. But I feel like the volatility has been chasing me too much in those moments lately. So I'm thinking I have the right setup here. I had good timing. I'm just going to let the trade work. Purely systematic, my friend.
There you go. Do it, man.
And just let it work, right? We'll see what happens at this point. I think the market can reverse. We've been seeing a lot of reverses in the afternoon. This is 10:30 when this one came in. We got a little peak, and all of a sudden a reversal at like 10:35. So at this
What I
point, we've
always
been seeing
say,
this algo do this often.
what I always say to I get a lot of questions. Obviously, I run a podcast about systematic trading. I'm a systematic trader myself, on kind of how to get into it. And I think that the route that you're taking is by far the right way to do it. If you want to, because especially too, a lot of people find joy in the hunting of I'm gonna be the one to decide what I'm going to buy and when I'm going to buy it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's like, okay, well then systemize the other side, systemize the stop
Exactly.
loss, profit target, all that, right? It can
Mhm.
still be your discretion of what to buy and when and where. But then when it comes to how you get out, and a lot of people will do it as, I'm going to wait for a break of this moving average, or I'm going to use, this kind of a trend line or whatever it is. But yeah, as soon as you systematize uh, the exit, right, the stop loss, profit target, and some sort of trailing stop or whatever it's doing, at least you systematize half it. And to me, it's like that makes me feel a lot better than people who decide to systematize none of it, where you're entering based off discretion and you're exiting based off discretion. It's
Yeah.
like at that point, it's like how do you know if you're doing a good job or whether you're just kind of psychologically um, feeling good at the time or feeling bad, right? So yeah, there's two sides: when to get in and when to get out. So if you don't want to systematize what to get into, then you systematize what to get out of, and I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, good. We'll see what happens. UPXI finally starting to come down. I think it got as high as almost 19. What a crazy, crazy move there. So, insane move on UPXI today,
20
guys.
the high of the day.
20.
20 the high of the day 20.00. Don't you better believe there was somebody out there who just, right, I am selling it at that price, and essentially probably just because they were either in it from this morning or in a little bit of it from overnight, and they just picked $20 as a level to get out of. Because
Yeah,
I can guarantee you, this is an institutional movement. This is some room out there picked
some
this up,
furu.
right?
Some
Yeah.
furu made, his 60, 70,000 on this. And another thing that you got to be watching for these furus is that I've been seeing them more and more. They're buying in pre-market.
Yeah.
They're buying in pre-market and kind of jumping into it more and more as they, of course, get their chat rooms open at 9 a.m. and they start talking about it with other traders. And now they have thousands and thousands of traders that are looking to buy a stock that they're already long. So don't forget those things. I just want to state that, right? Like you have to know how to play if you're going to be playing in the Furu space. That's
Yeah.
just what I'll say. And these names are in the Furu space, so you're
Oh,
competing with
100%.
them, right? And don't forget that. So you can play these, but you got to be a boss on your mental game and process approach. Um, really systematic with your approaches in these types of trades, because that's what's going to do it for you. On these trades, you might be 20 to 30% accurate, and when it works, it's a hell of a win, right? But you need to learn what to respect the losses and keep the losses small, so that when you do find a runner like this, you can kind of ride it.
And yeah, it's right, just if you're trading the guru stuff, it's the
Hold on
pump
to
and
your
dump scheme.
pants.
Well, and it's you're trained a pump and dump scheme, right? The guys, they
Yeah.
just happen really, really fast. So, and again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I always love the famous George Soros quote that every time I see a bubble, I run into it. It's the same thing. It's they're creating little mini bubbles that will pop, and everyone left holding the bag will lose all their money. But if you are out before them, right, you don't get greedy, then yeah, there are people that make a living following these guys, just not for the reasons that they would like to tell you that they're making a living, not because they've got some sort of secret sauce to it all. It's just that they're doing a pump and dump, and those people are very fast to get in on the pump and out on the dump, right? We saw the whole thing with was that website pump.fun that just went completely off the rails and unhinged very quickly. It's a game as old as time, and it's one of those games that will be around as long as human beings exist, right? Is because people are going to look for a quick buck. My dust finally starting to trend up here. So this one has more than paid for the NVDL loss in the morning, and will likely be the only trade that I'll take today. The only other thing that I could potentially see me do is if we got back up to VWAP on the SPY and hung out there for a little bit and then broke through, I might take a little bit of a shot on like an SPXL or something. But see what you're saying, but we had a pretty crazy reversal there, big pop up, and then 3 candles right down in a row there on the 1 minute. So
just watch it. Just watch it. I think you get to watch to see if the lunch algos come in here. I'm gonna call it quits, guys. I'll let you guys finish up with Michael here. Just a couple minutes more to wrap it up, guys. I will be back on Wednesday. I won't be back tomorrow. You guys will have Steve and Michael to trade with you guys. So get ready to nerd out tomorrow. The quants taking over. So we'll see what happens out there, guys. Keep battling in the markets. It's not easy. Of course, you got to keep your head on a swivel with all the news out there. Watch the earnings to come in here, and sometimes taking the easy trades during these times. That's why I went after Tesla today and stayed in the green. And we'll see what happens, guys. I didn't try to complicate things. And in this time and environment, try not to complicate things. Try to make something that's simple to you, something that you can trade often. And in this case, nice trade on Tesla and in the green. We'll see what happens towards the afternoon. And you can see that essentially I flipped on my position on Tesla, thinking that it's going to bounce a little bit here. We'll wait and find out. Right, guys, like always, smash the like and stay with Michael until the end. We'll see you guys. Like always, I got to keep battling. I will be back on Wednesday, guys. Take care.
All right. Later, buddy. Yeah, and if you guys are getting sick of me, don't worry. I'm away for a couple days next week. So you'll have Mitch back fully then. But yeah, it'll be a little bit for me and Steve again tomorrow. So we'll be nerding right out. Now, really, this kind of price action is kind of worrisome here to the SPY, to potentially more downside. Just the fact that it tried to rally there and just got like dunked down in people's faces. Big push up and then just slapped right back down. So we got to watch that in the market again. The only thing I got on the go is dust, and it's just kind of slowly grinding higher here to the 2-day VWAP. That would be a perfect little trade if we could get up to 27-ish bucks. That would again more than pay for the NVIDIA loss, putting a couple bucks, right? Not obviously a standout day. Putting a couple bucks in my pocket today, which is a good way to start the week. Again, I'm the two things that are just shocking me today that I'm going to really have a hard think about when the stream is done is the Bitcoin massive outperformance and IWM. Right, IWM and IWC. Yeah, they're selling with the market, but just not nearly as bad. So just showing that we've got some small cap and micro cap love. I don't know where it's coming from or why. I don't know if I really care, to be honest, but it's just interesting to see. So it might be one of those that we look for some more micro caps. SPY new lows of the day. Another sector that I was interested in watching, but doesn't look like it's happening, is this KTOS. Yeah, I wanted to see it above this kind of area here on the, there we go, above this kind of 34 area. Doesn't look like we're getting that, but defense, right? If you take a look at the ITA and then you compare this to the S&P 500, the ITA is holding up much better, right? And this, for those who don't know, the ITA is just defense sector. And we know that defense is a place that we're putting a lot of money into, or you guys as Americans are putting a lot of money into right now. So, keep an eye on, I don't know who's going to be the beneficiary, right? Lockheed Martin, if we're going to see Boeing, if we're going to see where that money goes into, but I think it was like 20 to 30% more spending on defense this year than last year. So it's a good place to keep an eye on. It's one of those, the government contracts are great contracts to have if you're a business. So if the government is going to throw money at you, that might be a great place to go to as more of a defensive area. And you would hope, and I'm no economist, but you would hope if you are you're building missiles or something for the US, that your supply chain is not dependent on China. That seems like it'd be problematic. So it could be a nice place to potentially put a couple bucks into. So I'm watching that sector really, really close. So let's just go through some comments while we're waiting. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to see what happens in the market. After this sell-off, do they recover this quickly? Is this going to be fade the bulls, fade the bears? Or is this another leg lower? And again, it's 509 is kind of the low of this pullback we had. So remember, we had the crazy, this day right here is the backing off of tariffs. And then the next day we pull into the midpoint of that zone and then we bounce. And ever since then, it's just kind of been a choppy mess. So this, call it 510 area, would be interesting. So if we don't get a bounce here, that's the next area that I'm going to keep an eye on the SPY. But we can go through some comments, any questions, that kind of stuff as well, right? Yeah, I should have sold everything now. I'm battling to break even. Yeah, I like Mitch's philosophy there of he was risking a percentage of his initial trade, or you could even say percentage of what happens in like the first half hour, right? A lot of people will say, okay, I take opening drives in the first half hour, and then from there, I'm just going to risk some percentage of that. It's hard, right? It's hard. Again, it's why I'm a systematic guy, because a lot of this stuff is hard. So I think the Bitcoin divergence is more of an indictment of the dollar than anything else. Could be. It could also be why gold is doing so well, is simply the fact that the dollar is not. And if we go to the dollar, right, DXY, right, the dollar is not doing fantastic. This is one of the most epic charts in the world, because you had this support area right here, and then we undercut that and we rip through these highs, and then we rip back down through. There's been a lot of like faking out of people of both sides here on the dollar. Seems like. So for those who don't know, the market hates a rapidly moving dollar. It doesn't, it's just like it hates rapidly moving interest rates. It doesn't really care too much whether the dollar is up or down. It hates when they move quickly, because you got to think about it. If you are XYZ giant multinational corporation, Apple, right? We are Apple. Well, we sell phones everywhere. We sell phones in Canada. We sell phones in the EU and the UK and all over the world. If the dollar is flying all over the place, it gets very hard to kind of sit there and budget and say, okay, we are, this is the amount that we're going to charge for the phone, and this is how we're going to charge, especially in different countries, and this is how we're going to buy the components and all of that stuff. Let's just use two countries, for example. So we'll do USD CAD. I mean, you like when this kind of stuff's going on, because okay, United States dollars is roughly, call it 1.36 Canadian. So that's roughly what we'll charge for a phone, because they can't change the price of the phone up here in Canada daily. I mean, they have to pick a price and say that's what we're going to get. And then obviously they've got like a trading department doing currency hedging and a bunch of stuff like that. But that becomes a lot easier when the price is barely moving. You know roughly what the conversion is. You know roughly what to charge for an iPhone in Canada, so that everything is tariffs and all of that stuff is getting taken into account. When the dollar's either crashing or ripping, both of those things are problematic, because it's like, okay, well, what do I charge for an iPhone in Canada? Like yesterday it was 1.45 and today it's 1.38. That doesn't seem like very much, but just from the high to the lows here is a 6% move, right? So you take 6% of the price of an iPhone, and then you multiply that by millions of iPhones being sold. It gets really, really hard for large companies to know this is what I'm going to, and it's all the same, right? Euro USD, right? It gets really hard when, the euro is up 12% versus the United States dollar. It gets really, really hard to say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to charge for this product, and this is what I'm going to charge for that product. Again, because consumers hate rapidly changing prices. Again, it just becomes very problematic. So you'll actually see, if you ever go into the balance sheet, which I don't recommend doing, I haven't really done since college, but if you go into the balance sheet of multinational corporations, they are they're always hedging. They have whole departments of traders who are looking at the currency markets and trying to hedge the currency markets. Because again, I need to pick a price for the iPhone in Canada, and I need to pick a price for the iPhone in Euro, and I need to pick a price for the iPhone in the UK. And then I got to launch those, and I got to keep them roughly at that price. And I need to know roughly how much I'm going to make on each iPhone, because I've got a massive, right, huge, like bigger than most countries company to run, and a couple percentage here or there, that's going to really, in the end of the days, it's really going to hurt my bottom line. So yeah, the dollar is something that's something that kind of boring for us, especially as non-forex traders, but becomes something you have to keep an eye on for sure. So we can quickly look at kind of where we're going here. 2.5% down on the Qs, 2.25 down on the SPY, and at new lows as we speak. IWM only down 1.9%, so a little bit better. And again, the reason that's shocking is that the IWM is usually high beta compared to the SPY. So if the SPY is down, the IWM is down a lot. If the SPY is up, the IWM is up a lot. It's usually high beta relative to the SPY, but in this case, it's lower beta, which is interesting. The Dow is roughly keeping up with the SPY, which is weird as well. And I keep saying, right, weird, this makes no sense, weird, it makes no sense. The reason for that, and the reason that that's important, I believe, is that when things are normal, there's less of an edge, even discretionarily. There's less of an edge to the market. When things are wacky, when things are really abnormal, sometimes it can lead to pretty sizable edges in the market, because XYZ thing should happen and it's not. That is something that I want to definitely keep an eye on, and have something to potentially take trades off of. So if, for example, Bitcoin is going to move conversely with the overall market in a pretty substantial way, maybe there's an advantage to be have there if they're no longer just going to be perfectly kind of correlated. So right, when I say that, I say it's something that, hey, we need to focus on, because if we continue to see this, maybe we can do some sort of short the market, buy micro strategy, that type of thing, some sort of trade to be had there. So all right. So that is the end of the stream for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, tomorrow will be me and Mitch, or not me and Mitch. Mitch will be gone. It'll be me and Steve. And I think that'll be always a good time. Someone has a quick question. So fire away. We'll keep it going just till that one's done. I'm going to give WhatsApp a... All right. So cool, guys. Just someone meme in there. Have a good one. We will chat to you all tomorrow with me and Steve. We'll do some super nerdy Fibonacci stuff. I know he's one of those Fibonacci nerds. Have a good one.